Hello and welcome. My name is Sarah and this is Ex Libris, the place where I talk about books. This is my 4th week on YouTube and this is my 3rd sugar-free V of the day. It occurred to me that I haven't properly introduced myself. So today I am going to be doing the Booktube newbie tag. If you're unfamiliar, this is a series of questions designed to introduce a booktuber to the community. It was a tag first started by a YouTuber named Brenda C. Her channel no longer exists, but I do hope that Brenda is aware that her legacy continues. So question number 1 is, why did you start this channel? For the money and fame. Because everyone knows that Booktube is where it's at. Just raking it in. Very simply because I love books and I love talking about books. I spent about 8 or 9 years working in bookshops where I would have to recommend books to people for themselves or for other people that they wanted to purchase. And then I switched over to libraries and I now work in a library, which I much prefer because retail will suck the soul right out of you. It doesn't matter if you're around books. It'll just crush you. So now I work in a library, and the thing that surprised me most is that we don't get that many inquiries from people about book recommendations. I think with libraries, people are either searching for a very specific title or subject, or they are perfectly happy to browse. That's what you do in a library. You just go from shelf to shelf and try to find something that speaks to you, something that jumps out at you. So I was really surprised that I don't get that many inquiries about book recommendations. And so I don't get to talk about books as often as I thought I would in a library. I do, of course, talk about books with my colleagues, but don't always get the opportunity to do that. So I wanted a place where I could talk about the books that I've read, recommend books, do reviews, and hopefully build a community that way. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube? Awkwardness. I can bring awkwardness. I think the energy that I'm going for with this channel is very much Liz Truss talking about pork markets.
In December, I'll be in Beijing, opening up new pork markets.
I genuinely watch that video before I film anything. Like every time I'm about to film something, I watch that video because it just reminds me that I can embrace my awkwardness. My awkwardness is my superpower. If Liz Truss can be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom for like 20 minutes, then I can make a YouTube channel. Question 3. What are you most excited about for this new channel? I think I am most looking forward to the sense of community this might provide. I want to be able to converse and interact with other booktubers. I've been watching Booktube for quite a while. There are a lot of channels that I really enjoy and admire. I would love to be able to interact with those people and be part of the community and share my knowledge of books and my suggestions, but also gain more knowledge and more recommendations from them as well. Question 4 is, why do you love reading? Now this is a deceptively simple question that I actually find quite difficult to answer. At this point, reading and books have been such a huge part of my life that I don't even know why I do it anymore. It just is. It's obsessive. It's compulsive. I have to have a book with me anywhere I go. I create lists of books that I want to read. These lists now number in the thousands. It's just part of my life. It's who I am. Reading is life. It's escapism. It's experiencing the lives and the stories of other people. It's learning things, it's experiencing things. There is so much that you can get from books, but it just seems to go deeper than that. It has kind of crossed the line into an obsession now. At this point, it's my lifeblood. I can't even explain it. It just is. Question 5 is, what book or series got you into reading? So this is my reader origin story. As a child, I read books, no more or less than any other kid that I knew. I was an only child, and so naturally I read a lot of books. I would spend every school holidays with my nan and pa, and my nan was also a voracious reader. She used to take me to the library all the time. Every Christmas and birthday and even Easter or special occasion, I would get books from her. So I went through the Babysitters Club phase. I then moved on to Point Horror, if anyone remembers Point Horror. They were designed more for young adults, even though at that point in time there was no such thing as a young adult category. I think back then it was probably still known as teen fiction, but I started reading Point Horror when I was about 10. And eventually I went to my nan and I said, I've read them all. I've read all the books. There's nothing left. And so she asked me what I had been reading. I told her horror books. And she said, oh, you like horror books? I'll give you horror books. She gave me Jaws by Peter Benchley and Cujo by Stephen King. And I love that her reaction was just kind of like, oh, you like the beach? Here's Jaws. So, you like dogs, do you? Have Cujo. And if I could take this moment just to say to any parent or grandparent out there who apparently has a precocious reader on their hands, just because a 10-year-old can read Stephen King doesn't mean they should. However, having said that, reading Cujo by Stephen King, even at such a tender age, opened me up to the possibilities of what a novel could be. There are so many levels of character development. Of course, the horror element I found absolutely thrilling, but that it wasn't just about the horror. There was also the character development and the backstory, and I didn't realize that a book could be like that. And so that launched me into about 5 or 6 years of exclusively reading Stephen King. Between the ages of about 10 and 16, I read nothing but Stephen King. And when I'd read them all, I went back and I reread them, and I reread them, and I reread them. But eventually, there were no more books left, as prolific as he is. So that was when I started branching out. I felt like I've gotten a taste of what reading really is. And that's when I started searching for classic books, award winners, the kind of books that everybody talks about in lists of best books. And that is what kind of broadened my horizons as a reader. But Stephen King is the author who made me from someone who reads into a reader. And also, and also thanks to my nan for scaring the shit out of me. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Can I have your followers, please? Question 7. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be hardest to overcome? Now, this question is probably the one that I have been thinking about the most. It even keeps me up at night. There are a lot of challenges with creating a booktube channel. The first one that I've noticed in my whole 4 weeks of booktubing is that it does kind of eat into my valuable reading time. So what I've been doing is filming on weekends and then editing after work during the week. And these are usually prime reading times for me. So I do kind of feel like since I have started a booktube channel, I've been reading slightly less. So I'm kind of, grappling with that. There's also the fact that I am entering into what is a very popular, possibly oversaturated market of booktube. And so it is very hard to make a name for yourself in the booktube sphere. So far, I've been finding it very challenging getting views or getting subscribers or even just getting myself out there. It is quite difficult. And so at some point, and I'm not at that point yet, it's still very early days, but at some point, there is the toss-up between putting so much time and energy and so much of yourself into a project and then have nobody watch it can be very discouraging. So I am kind of thinking a lot about that lately as well. Question 8 is, when did you start reading? I kind of feel like I answered this with the reader origin story, Stephen King. I started reading, when I was about 4 years old, when I started school. But there is a difference between someone who reads and someone who is a reader. So it's probably not until my teen years that I really became a reader and started reading Stephen King under the desk during maths class. Question 9. Where do you read? Good question. I read almost anywhere. My designated spot is on the couch right here. I don't like reading in bed because I have a lot of trouble sleeping. I have no idea why I have so much trouble sleeping. I just wish I could sleep. And apparently it's bad to read in bed if you have trouble sleeping, because you're supposed to associate bed just with sleeping. So other than the couch, I also read on public transport. I read during meal times, during my lunch break at work. I read after work. I read before bed. I take a book to the doctor's office because the doctors are always running late, and that's a good 10, 15, 20 minutes that you could be reading a book. Basically, I keep a book in my handbag at all times because you never know when you're going to have a spare 10 to 15 minutes where you, instead of playing on your phone, which I also do, you can read a book. And I think this is also why I get through so many books as well, because I take little snatches of time throughout the day just to read, even if it's just like one page or a paragraph, and I can get through it that way. Okay. Question 10. This is our final question. What kind of books do you like to read? So my tastes are quite broad. I predominantly read literary fiction, and I'm also obsessed with the Booker Prize. So every year I read the full Booker long list, and I'm also going through all of the previous winners. But I also like a lot of genre fiction. So I read fantasy, sci-fi. I'm big into horror at the moment. I like westerns. I like historical fiction. I don't read a lot of non-fiction, but when I do, I like memoirs or history. The only genres that I don't read are probably YA and romance. So when I was a teenager, back in the 90s, don't do the math, don't do the math. Young adult fiction or YA was not a genre. It didn't exist. Obviously, there were books that were published for teenagers, but it was very much not the juggernaut that it is today. So I kind of skipped over teen fiction or young adult. And having done that, I never really had the opportunity to read young adult. And so now I feel like I've kind of, I don't know, gone past it. As for romance, the fact that I don't read it is no shade on the genre. It's just not for me. My heart is a piece of beef jerky. It is just a dried up, shriveled hunk of meat. I have only enough energy to pump blood around my body and not enough to care about fictional relationships. I love that romance as a genre, and by extension romantasy, has brought so many new readers into reading and into the love of books. And for that, I can't fault it. But it's just not for me. If you have any suggestions for books that are maybe romance or YA that you think I should try, then leave a message below. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to interacting, conversing, comparing notes with other readers and other booktubers. So please leave me a message below, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Why did you start this channel? For the money, obviously. The money and the fame and the poontang.